Life can feel like a merciless storm, beating you down with waves of challenges that seem endless. It tests your will, forcing you to question your own strength and whether it's worth enduring. I know that feeling all too well. There were moments when I felt as if I was being pulled under, gasping for air in a sea of setbacks. Maybe you've felt that too, teetering on the brink, wondering if it's easier to just let go. But here's a truth I've learned, one that isn't often shared. The moments when you're closest to giving up are often the moments when you're closest to breaking through. It's in the depths of those dark hours that you unearth what you're truly made of. When you feel like everything is falling apart, there's a strange paradox at play. It's also the time when you're being molded into something stronger, something more resilient. I'm not here to offer the usual pep talk, nor am I going to sugarcoat things. Instead, I want to share 7 raw, unfiltered truths. They're rooted in Stoic philosophy, and they've been my lifeline during my darkest days. These lessons don't pander to feel-good cliches. They're not easy to hear or implement, but if you embrace them, they have the power to change your perspective, to help you stand when everything else seems to be collapsing around you. Pain, for instance, isn't your enemy. That might sound absurd, but hear me out. Pain is a teacher, a brutal but effective one. It's in those moments of discomfort, when you're tempted to flee or numb yourself, that pain delivers its lessons. I remember a time when everything seemed to go wrong all at once. I lost my job, and with it, my sense of purpose. The pain felt unbearable, like a suffocating weight pressing down on me. But instead of running from it, I tried something new. I sat with it, and in that stillness, I began to understand. Pain wasn't trying to destroy me. It was trying to show me something about myself. The Stoics teach us to face pain head-on, to see it as a mirror reflecting our deepest truths. At first, this idea felt counterintuitive. How could something so agonizing be a source of wisdom? But pain has a way of stripping away the superficial, forcing you to confront what truly matters. It reveals your fears, your insecurities, and the gaps in your resilience. In many ways, it's like lifting weights. The strain, the tearing of muscle fibers, that's what leads to growth. The same is true of emotional and mental pain. It breaks you down, yes, but only to build you back up stronger. There's a night I'll never forget. I was sitting alone in my apartment, utterly defeated. The world felt too heavy to carry, and I was ready to collapse under its weight. But as I sat there, consumed by my pain, something shifted. I realized that the pain itself was a message. It was teaching me patience, humility, and perseverance. It was a harsh but necessary reminder of my own strength. And once I started to see it that way, I began to rise, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. This is not an invitation to seek out suffering or to romanticize hardship. It's a call to stop running from it. Use pain as your guide. Let it show you where you need to grow, what you need to change. Don't numb it with distractions or drown it in denial. Face it, learn from it, and let it shape you into someone stronger than you ever thought possible. The world doesn't often teach us this. Instead, we're bombarded with messages to seek comfort, to avoid anything unpleasant. But comfort is a double-edged sword. While it feels good in the moment, it can rob you of growth and resilience. The Stoics knew that life's greatest lessons come wrapped in hardship. That pain isn't something to be feared, but something to be understood. And in understanding it, you can transform it into a source of power. When you embrace pain, you stop seeing it as an enemy. Instead, you see it for what it is. A teacher, a guide, a force that can shape you into your best self. And when you learn this, you'll find that the strength you've been searching for has been within you all along, waiting to be unlocked. Keep going, even when it feels impossible, because it's often in the moments when you're about to give up that the greatest breakthroughs occur. There's an often overlooked power in solitude. In a world that thrives on constant connection, being alone can feel like a punishment, a form of exile. But solitude is not loneliness, it's an opportunity, a sacred space where you can reconnect with your inner self. It's a chance to listen to the quiet voice within, the one that gets drowned out by the noise of daily life. For me, solitude wasn't something I sought out willingly at first. It was thrust upon me during some of the hardest moments of my life. At the time, it felt isolating, even terrifying. But as I leaned into it, I discovered a strength I never knew I had. There's a profound difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is a yearning for connection, but solitude is a choice, a deliberate retreat into yourself. It's a space where you can think deeply, reflect honestly, and strip away the layers of distraction to find clarity. I used to fear being alone. I thought it meant I was unwanted or unworthy. But during one of the darkest times in my life, when everything seemed to fall apart and I found myself cut off from the people I leaned on, I had no choice but to embrace it. At first, the silence was deafening. Without the usual distractions of work, social obligations, or constant digital interaction, I was left alone with my thoughts. And they weren't kind. Regrets, fears, and insecurities swirled around, threatening to consume me. But as the days turned into weeks, something remarkable happened. I began to hear my own voice, not the one conditioned by external expectations, but the one that spoke from the core of who I am. Solitude became a sanctuary, a place where I could truly understand myself without judgment or interference. The Stoics believed in the value of stepping back, of taking time to reflect and reassess. They understood that true clarity and strength come not from external validation, but from within. In solitude, I found that strength. I started journaling, not with the intention of creating anything profound, but simply to pour out my thoughts onto paper. It became a practice of self-discovery. I asked myself questions I'd been too afraid to face. What do I truly want? What am I running from? What am I holding on to that no longer serves me? The answers didn't come all at once. They came in fragments, in whispers, but each revelation brought with it a sense of liberation. Solitude taught me to trust myself, to make decisions not based on what others might think, but on what felt right to me. It's easy to get caught up in the noise of the world, to let the opinions of others dictate your path. But when you strip all that away, you find a clarity that can only come from within. Many of history's greatest minds understood this. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher-emperor who wrote his meditations in solitude, reflecting on life, virtue, and the nature of the universe. Or think of artists and innovators who retreated from the world to create their greatest works. Solitude isn't a withdrawal from life, it's a deeper engagement with it. It's where you find the courage to face your truths and the strength to chart your course. During one particularly difficult period, I took to walking alone in the woods. At first, it was just a way to escape the suffocating feeling of being stuck indoors with my thoughts. But those walks became something much more. Surrounded by nature, with no one to judge or interrupt, I began to feel a sense of peace. The rustling leaves, the chirping birds, the steady rhythm of my footsteps. They reminded me that life continues, even in its quiet moments. And in that stillness, I found clarity. Solitude isn't about cutting yourself off from the world forever. It's about creating a space where you can recharge, reflect, and realign with your values. It's about learning to be comfortable with yourself, to face your fears without distraction, and to emerge stronger. When you're constantly surrounded by people, by noise, by the demands of life, it's easy to lose sight of who you are and what truly matters to you. Solitude is a way to come back to yourself, to remember who you are beneath all the roles you play. And here's the thing. Solitude isn't just about being physically alone. It's also about creating mental space. You can be surrounded by people and still feel a sense of solitude if you learn to tune out the noise and turn inward. Meditation, journaling, even moments of quiet reflection during a hectic day, these are all forms of solitude that can help you find clarity and strength. The world often glorifies busyness and connectivity, but there's immense power in stepping back. When you embrace solitude, you give yourself permission to rest, to heal, and to grow. You stop seeking validation from others and start finding it within. You learn to trust yourself, to listen to your own intuition. And when you return to the world, you do so with a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. Solitude is not a retreat. It's a return to yourself, to your values, to the essence of who you are. It's a chance to reconnect with the parts of you that get lost in the chaos of life. When you feel like giving up, when the noise of the world becomes too much to bear, remember this. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is to step back and embrace the silence. In that silence, you might just find the strength you've been searching for all along. We live in a world obsessed with goals. Everywhere you turn, there's someone telling you to dream bigger, aim higher, and hustle harder. Vision boards, 5-year plans, smart objectives. They're all designed to keep us chasing something just out of reach. But what if that chase is part of what's weighing you down? What if the relentless pursuit of goals is robbing you of the joy and meaning in the moment? It's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Sometimes letting go of rigid goals is the key to finding peace and resilience. For most of my life, I believed that goals were the answer to everything. If I could just set the right ones, if I could work hard enough, I could achieve anything. I mapped out my life with meticulous detail, assigning milestones to every year. I believed that success was a straight line, and as long as I stayed on the path, I'd eventually get to where I wanted to go. But life doesn't work like that. Life is messy, unpredictable, and rarely conforms to our plans. The first crack in my belief system came when one of my most cherished goals slipped through my fingers. I'd been working tirelessly toward a promotion at work, pouring every ounce of energy into proving myself. I sacrificed weekends, evenings, and even relationships, all in the name of climbing the ladder. But when the time came, the promotion went to someone else. I was devastated. I felt like a failure, as though all my effort had been for nothing. That goal, which had once been a source of motivation, had turned into a weight dragging me down. The Stoics have a saying, "Focus on what you can control, not on what you can't." Goals often pull us into focusing on outcomes, things we don't have full control over. No matter how hard you work, there are always external factors at play, other people's decisions, timing, luck. What the Stoics suggest instead is to focus on the process. Concentrate on your actions, your effort, and your attitude. Let the results take care of themselves. It wasn't an easy shift to make. At first I felt aimless, like a ship without a destination. But over time, I started to see the freedom in this approach. I stopped obsessing over whether I hit a specific milestone and started asking myself a different question. Am I doing my best right now? That question became my guiding star, and it transformed the way I approached everything in my life. When I focused on the process instead of the outcome, I found that I was less stressed and more engaged. I wasn't constantly measuring myself against an arbitrary finish line. I was simply showing up each day, doing my best, and letting go of the rest. Ironically, this shift made me more productive, not less. Without the weight of rigid goals, I was free to adapt, to pivot when circumstances changed, and to embrace opportunities I might have overlooked if I'd been too fixated on my original plan. One of the most profound lessons I learned during this time was that life is not a straight line. It's a winding path, full of detours, dead ends, and unexpected turns. Sometimes those detours lead you to places far better than anything you could have planned for yourself. But you can only see those opportunities if you're willing to let go of the map and trust the journey. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have aspirations or dreams. It doesn't mean you should stop working hard or striving for improvement. What it does mean is that you should hold those aspirations lightly. Instead of clinging to them with white-knuckled determination, allow yourself the flexibility to adapt. Life is a dance, not a race. The more rigid you are, the harder it is to move with the rhythm. I've come to think of this approach as setting intentions rather than goals. An intention is less about achieving a specific outcome and more about the energy and effort you bring to the process. For example, instead of saying, "I need to lose 20 pounds by the end of the year," you might say, "I intend to prioritize my health and well-being." The former creates pressure, the latter creates possibility. It's a subtle shift, but it makes all the difference. There's also an incredible freedom in letting go of the idea that your worth is tied to your achievements. For years, I believed that my value as a person was directly proportional to how much I accomplished. The more I achieved, the more I felt I deserved love, respect, and happiness. But the truth is, your worth isn't something you earn, it's something you already have. No amount of success or failure can change that. When you let go of rigid goals, you start to see life for what it truly is, a series of moments. Each moment is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to connect, and to experience joy. When you're fixated on a future outcome, you miss those moments. You're so busy chasing the horizon that you forget to appreciate the view where you are. But when you shift your focus to the present, you open yourself up to the beauty and richness of life as it unfolds. I'll never forget a conversation I had with a friend who had just returned from a long hike on the Appalachian Trail. He told me that the most meaningful part of the journey wasn't reaching the end. It was the experience of walking each day. The quiet mornings, the breathtaking views, the challenges and triumphs along the way, those were the moments that stayed with him. The destination was just an excuse to start, he said. The journey was the real reward. That perspective has stuck with me. Life is not about reaching a specific destination, it's about how you walk the path. When you stop measuring your success by the goals you've achieved and start measuring it by the effort you've put in, the kindness you've shown, and the lessons you've learned, everything changes. You realize that you're not behind, you're not failing, you're exactly where you're meant to be. Letting go of goals doesn't mean giving up. It means giving yourself the freedom to grow, to adapt, and to enjoy the process. It means trusting that life has its own rhythm, one that doesn't always align with your plans, but that often leads you to where you need to be. So, the next time you find yourself feeling overwhelmed by your goals, take a step back. Ask yourself not, "What do I need to achieve?" but, "How can I show up fully in this moment?" Because in the end, it's not about what you accomplish, it's about who you become along the way. We're often told to seek comfort, to build a life where everything feels safe and secure. Comfort is marketed to us as the ultimate goal: stable jobs, predictable routines, convenient lifestyles. But the truth is, comfort can be a trap, a slow erosion of your potential, and the silent killer of ambition. If you want to discover your true strength, if you want to find out what you're truly capable of, you must deliberately seek challenges. It's only through adversity that you grow, and it's only by stepping outside your comfort zone that you uncover your greatest potential. There was a time in my life when I thought I was doing everything right. I had a steady job, a decent paycheck, and a predictable routine. I didn't take risks because I thought avoiding failure was the smart thing to do. On the surface, everything seemed fine, but inside, I felt stuck. I wasn't happy. I was stagnant. Deep down, I knew I wasn't living up to my potential, but the thought of leaving that comfortable bubble terrified me. What if I failed? What if things got worse? It wasn't until I faced a significant challenge, one I didn't choose but couldn't avoid, that I realized how much strength I had been leaving untapped. I lost that steady job, and suddenly, all the comfort I had clung to was gone. At first, I panicked. Without the safety net, I felt exposed and vulnerable. But in that vulnerability, I discovered something incredible. I was capable of far more than I'd ever imagined. The Stoics teach us that adversity is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced. They believed that challenges are the forge in which our character is shaped. When you deliberately put yourself in situations that test you, you build resilience, grit, and tenacity. You learn to adapt, to persevere, and to find solutions in the face of obstacles. Comfort, on the other hand, breeds complacency. It keeps you safe, yes, but it also keeps you small. Think about physical training. When you lift weights, you're literally putting stress on your muscles, creating tiny tears in the fibers. It's painful, but it's also the only way your muscles grow stronger. The same principle applies to every aspect of life. Emotional, mental, and even spiritual growth come from facing challenges, not avoiding them. Each time you push yourself beyond your limits, you expand what you're capable of. For me, one of the most transformative challenges was training for a marathon. I wasn't a runner, far from it. But I decided to sign up because I needed something to pull me out of the rut I was in. The training was grueling. There were mornings when my legs ached so badly that I could barely get out of bed. There were moments during long runs when I wanted to quit, when every step felt like a battle. But I kept going, and when I crossed that finish line, the sense of accomplishment was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It wasn't just about completing the race. It was about proving to myself that I could endure, that I could overcome. Challenges like that teach you something invaluable. You are stronger than you think. But you'll never know that strength if you don't test it. Life will present its own challenges, of course, unexpected hardships that force you to grow. But there's something powerful about choosing your challenges, about stepping into discomfort willingly. It sends a message to yourself and to the world. I am not afraid to struggle because I know struggle is what makes me strong. Some of the greatest figures in history understood this. They didn't achieve greatness by staying comfortable. They sought out challenges, faced their fears, and embraced the unknown. Think of explorers who ventured into uncharted territories, inventors who risked everything on unproven ideas, or leaders who stood firm in the face of overwhelming odds. Their stories remind us that the path to greatness is rarely easy, but it is always worth it. One of the most important lessons I've learned is that the discomfort you feel in the midst of a challenge is temporary, but the growth you gain from it lasts a lifetime. Every time you face a fear, every time you push through resistance, you build a little more confidence in yourself. You start to see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities. This doesn't mean you should seek out difficulty for its own sake. It's not about being reckless or putting yourself in harm's way. It's about recognizing that growth and comfort cannot coexist. If you want to become stronger, wiser, and more resilient, you have to be willing to step into the storm. It's about finding challenges that push you just beyond your current limits, enough to stretch you, but not so much that you break. For example, if you're afraid of public speaking, challenge yourself to speak in front of a small group. If you've been avoiding difficult conversations, choose to face one head-on. If you've been staying in a job or a relationship that no longer serves you because it's comfortable, consider what it would mean to take a leap into the unknown. These are the moments where growth happens, where you find out who you really are. Comfort zones are alluring because they offer a sense of safety, but they also come with a cost. They can lull you into a state of inertia, where you're alive but not truly living. Stepping outside of them might feel risky, but it's in those risks that you find your potential. The Stoics understood that life's most profound rewards come from embracing discomfort, from seeking out the challenges that force you to evolve. Since I began seeking challenges rather than avoiding them, my life has changed in ways I never thought possible. I've started projects I once thought were beyond my capabilities. I've built relationships with people who inspire me. I've faced fears that once seemed insurmountable. Each challenge has brought its own set of difficulties, but it's also brought growth, wisdom, and a deeper sense of purpose. Remember, the strength you gain from facing challenges is not just for the big dramatic moments in life. It's what carries you through the everyday struggles, the quiet battles that no one else sees. It's what helps you stay calm in chaos, persevere in the face of setbacks, and keep moving forward even when the path ahead is uncertain. So the next time you're faced with a choice between comfort and challenge, choose the path that stretches you. It won't be easy, and it won't always be pleasant, but it will be worth it, because it's in those moments of struggle that you discover your true strength, and it's through those challenges that you become the person you were meant to be. Embrace the storm, step into the unknown, and let the discomfort shape you into something extraordinary.